about it a little bit, and I really liked the gullibility is not a cover up, but the last couple of lives ago, maybe you said gullibility was kind of cute, and it is kind of cute until now we're in Alex Jones' world.
Yeah.
But I missed the very end. And asking the question, is it true? And then when you get hooked into what you think is true, and then you're in that, the formation of the congealed gnosis of belief, knowledge, thinking and then you can't give up your truth. And so I even know people that really were in satanic torture and believe Kathy O'Brien. So they think she's their savior.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like an interesting one, but they're the most gullible too, because they were, kind of messed with in their when you're cognitively 0 to 7 and you're messed with, it really messed with some core things in children.
Yeah.
So
I would even go one step further and defend it even more in the sense of all of us are going to look for the shell that makes us feel the most comfortable. And that shell is always going to be with a group of people that believe something that you feel spiritually connected to. That's why we feel that way. So I spent a lot of time, and I probably still sound this way. I don't, as long as we can get into a reality of belief, I want people to believe in things like, I'm just saying it to me, that is such a catalyst. What's not a catalyst is the war that we have over the fascism of, look, we're gonna fucking decide whose belief is what here. And I think that's what's causing so much of the blindness that we see, which is why I feel so strongly about this, about Kathy. Guys, I don't know. I don't have any more knowledge than you do. I don't have any less. I could burn in hell if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I need the entire universe, the matrix, to know that it has been programming me wrong for thousands of years, because I feel inherently in my bones that this is not a legit story. It just feels on such a deep resonant level in that way. It doesn't mean it's right, but this is why I say I don't think that we ever have touch with factual reality. And people may miss that I have a very pretty abrupt softness to me when it comes to saying I don't need you to believe in this. I need the room to believe that I do not believe in it. And I need you to, if you and I are going to be close, you're going to have to know that. It's more like that, it's more like that, because I don't even want to fuck with someone who's like, yeah, Kathy Bryan's story really moved me. I'm just like, why would I want to fuck? I wouldn't want to fuck with that. I would feel like I'm breaking your church. And the only thing that would help, this is the fascism I see in myself, the tentacles that I've seen on myself, is that in the past and in the present, I attack other people's churches to justify how weak mine is. And I don't want to do that. I never want to do that, which is why it's such a weird thing to be discussing issues like this. Honestly, I don't care. But when I do see things like this affecting the world, I get to rant, and hopefully that's what you guys enjoy. So
That's one of the things about you, James, that first attracted me, because even though you're a little bit younger, you somehow went through the discernment gauntlet and came up with the same conclusions without having the benefit of seeing the recycling of it probably as much as I did, because I probably started a little, just by your account, it seems like I started questioning things like a little sooner, but you did too, just in your own way, like through a Q thing maybe. But yeah, when you see the Kathy O'Brien thing, I'm just, God, that thing's got legs. But I guess if you want to catch more people, you have to maintain those old memes, so to speak. And then you have to continue to, but basically, just on the Kathy O'Brien thing alone, gosh, I could like remove a whole giant layer of truthers that I wouldn't want to listen to. And I just recently heard this thing where if you scapegoat somebody, somehow it changes the state of your frontal cortex or something so that you don't care anymore. So kind of like what you said, you're like, you, in your own way, you discern, you judge, you scapegoat, and then you don't care. So you truly don't have to give it energy. That's kind of, in a nutshell, how a person could make it through. But, I should commend you on, not that I'm some great discerner, but just, I'd seen you talk about many things that people haven't seen, and even with the things, a lot of them that you don't talk about, because, it's, even if it's true, you'll never convince anybody. So you got things that are true that it's apophatic, and you just can't really, easily transmit that. And then you have the other things that you just don't even want to give the time, and then you get punished for it because of that. But this is a good conversation. It explains a lot, so that people don't have to be so mistaken about why you do or don't talk about things, and just maybe and I'm not even like, I haven't explored very much with AI things. To me, the AI is like the question of am I instead of I am. So there's some type of an inversion that I sense, but I just haven't quite identified it, and with its role as a shaman. We have shamans and interacting, and I'm interested in how that relationship turns out, if it follows that pattern. But anyway, those are some of my thoughts I had on current events.
I think the only thing I wanted to add to that is, and I really mean this with Kathy O'Brien, but I mean it with anybody. If you want to look at yourself inside of a belief dojo, then you would want to find people that believe something that you don't, and to be able to nurture that. You really like this is the ultimate test for you. I used to think that this is about the truth. And my name's James True. How fucking convenient. And I wanted it to be about I swear, guys, I wanted this to be about the truth more than fucking anybody. Like I own the fucking trademark for that. I'm the Pam Bondi. I am the, I'm the Patel of this truth movement, because it's literally in my name. And I'm the one that's coming out going, yeah, guys, it's just fucking bullshit. It's just about belief, man. And I'm a fascist. I've been a fascist the whole time. Been insisting these sheeps jab these bamboo shoots up their fingernails so they'll keep their eyes open the whole time, because that somehow makes my world better. Like that was me. Like it still is some days. It still is when I watch everyone insist there has to be a cover up. When I watch the people that, I mean, this shit really happens to people. This stuff really happens to people.
Yes.
And it really hurts to watch someone. This is the only time I use the word loosh. I think Kathy O'Brien is drinking the fucking loosh off of people that have been truly hurt. And it just disgusts me. And I don't know if I'm right. See, it's the church I have. The church I have is that there are people that would do this. And I need Kathy O'Brien to serve as the furniture for that, because I want to talk about that. I don't really want to talk about Kathy O'Brien, which is why I think if I was really good at this, I could talk about it and never mention her, because it could be a sacred archetype for one of you. That one of you would have that as a totem, and now we've set up a division between us where you would be afraid to show me that totem, not because I'm a fierce warrior, although it could be, but because I would desecrate that holy altar you have. I am not in that business anymore. I really I want to, I know I say it a lot, but I want to see how you're rigged. I want to see how you rig your sails. And if your sail is, well, we have a spinner called Kathy Bryan, and we have Epstein is my second mast. I'm a fucking schooner, man, and I think that works, right? Like I really do, because I think that we've developed an attachment to the furniture itself versus the energy that's underneath it. And we learn so much more about that kind of stuff. So I really do regret spoiling that for people. Same for archaics. Same for all the things that's why I try not to talk about them. Say for Owen, they for all the other. I just try not to because it's like I don't want to ruin that for anybody. I want to be able to hang out in the room and you tell me how much you fucking love Kathy O'Brien, and for me not to be. See, if I start to hold it against you, if I start to be like, oh, I'm just all I've learned to do is see that as weakness in my church. That I can't. My church isn't mobile. It has to remain away from people that believe this. That's my weakness. My talisman is not strong enough, right? And that's anyway, I'm just repeating myself, but yeah. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, James. I shared some of your work. I share a lot of your work, and she's one of the person that had Kathy O'Brien as truth. Um, she couldn't she couldn't accept that. But then I was thinking, isn't it the ladder of a hermetic? Certain people are going to stay here, and I think that we all go through like how many rungs can you go to not be right? Like zetetic experience is zetetic experience, but I don't really. I have truth. I have a way of asking myself truth, but I have to be in a balanced place first of all to be able to even get there. So then I can compassionate if you were 7 years old and sexually ritually abused, how, what's going on in your brain, like what is the evolution like, psychologically, what can we even, how do we even get there if that's happened? And you know you might be always in like an anxious fight, flight, or freeze, never in a parasympathetic state if that's happened to you. I don't know. I'm just given a compassionation, but I also think it's an evolution of growth. When you go through a truth movement, I was in the truth movement. I was accused of you know being a crazy person and getting all my information off of YouTube. And I really had accredited cardiologists on my side. But I think it was an evolution for me, so I'm taking it as a positive.
Yeah. If I could just say really quick that you could look at early humans always being in a sympathetic state, and then they grew the tumor of the frontal lobe, and then they developed the ability to have a parasympathetic state. So
Yeah.
could be centuries before certain lines actually even move into that room. Remember, it's like I've said this before, but picture your house as has an upstairs and there's just a door. You just walk by it the whole time. Like you open it. Holy fuck, there's a guest room in here. And then what is this, a sewing room? What is this, a craft club? Oh my God, this is amazing. And that's waiting in you back then, and I believe that it's waiting in us now that you and I are looking for these doors every day, which is why I'm so stressed. Hear the irony. I'm so stressed about relaxing. It's so important to me that we relax because if we relax, we can see the door. I want to see the door. I know it sounds crazy, but that's how we relax. We have to get a little loosey, a little loony to find that parasympathetic state. Imagine if it was there, because I feel it is. I've had that bliss before, and I think that's probably what it is all the time. Let's go there. Let's relax and go there.
I'm with you, James. All right. Brad, you're I don't know if you're still going by Dell, but you're up. Good to see you.
You're muted, Del.
Still muted. He has to go out and in again. Okay, let's take True, and then we'll go back to Brad. Dell.
Hi, everybody. Um, I've mentioned this before and I've written about it. I had my own experience. I don't even really want to go into it anymore. I've written about it to get it out of me, to speak my truth like once or twice, and then integrate that experience into my uh, spiritual evolution. I went for years looking for one person to really listen to me and get it. And I found that person. And I reclaimed a part of myself that I literally went schizophrenic. I mean, I did for I was looking for answers. I got into the conspiracy stuff. I was familiar with Kathy O'Brien. I was looking for answers from me. But to pile on to that, James, I totally agree with your approach. Okay. You questioning Kathy O'Brien does not threaten me whatsoever, or my reality whatsoever. And um, uh, yeah, I guess that's all I had to say about it, right? Right now.
Right on. Thanks, True. Hey, Brad, you get it figured out? No?
Don't think so.
Yeah. There you are.
Oh, you hearing me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Hey.
Hey.
We should keep talking about how it doesn't work. But yeah.
Well, I'm learning from you how much time you get to do with technical issues on the show. I see how fun it is, man.
Yeah, that's why I sent Pi a audio interface so he could play too. We need things to break that you have to make sure are turned right.
See, that's what it is. I'm working. You can't tell. That's why the Dell is on there. I'm trying to work on a little bit of a new setup, but I haven't figured out how to change Dell yet. So I'm just gonna roll with it. And but yeah, I'm not sure what the microphone did. It did at the same time last time, and I'm not sure what I did to fix it. But anyway, yeah, as we were talking about, Lori, you're talking about in the truth community, right? And then going through these aesthetic experience, if you will. But when you mentioned how many times do you kind of find out that you're wrong before you do kind of start to relax and open up and stop being so rigid? Well, and when you say relax, James, isn't it funny? You got to force yourself to relax. But that's what I mean. Like for those in the truth community, those who we all dove into it, right? Wes Penray, I think, was one of the earliest ones that really got me. I bought up food and I stocked up on shit because I knew it was all going to go down, right? But to that point is how many times do you go through and realize, okay, I was gullible. That wasn't what it was. Before you've been in this foxhole, if you will, for long enough to start to let go of that, and not insist on, like, I don't know and as familiar with Nancy O'Brien, but been through a lot of them with everyone, and Alex Jones in particular. It's like that's still a hoot to me. I may have mentioned this before, but there's a gentleman that I met years and years ago who was into Alex Jones back in the time when I was, and very quickly kind of hit that point with Alex Jones being like, okay, this is what it was. A decade later, this gentleman still comes back to me and said, have you heard what Alex Jones is saying? And I'm kind of like, have you not clued in yet to a little bit of what's going on? And I guess for everybody, it's individual. I think Carmen mentioned something about people in the chat being loving the dark stories. And that's the aspect I think I realized about me that I had to admit, particularly when I got into the conspiracy things. That's just what it was. It was like I was addicted to the next video. We are all aware of that fear porn thing, right? But once I started to understand that I knew the algorithm was feeding me what I wanted to see. I understood that's how it worked, and kind of in doing that, I did have to take sort of responsibility for the fact that, like, I want these things to be true, and then when they don't pan out or nothing collapses or this, that, and then you look. Then you kind of have to be honest with yourself at that point and being like, okay, to our point, am I really after truth or am I after the show? And that's the part I think all of us, like it's got us all, like we all are in this show. So we're all subject to it to some extent or another. And that's what it is, figuring out. So the thing I'll close with at the moment is it's funny to me. There was a wrestling analogy that not really an analogy, but anyway, years ago when Hulk Hogan used to be the big hero in the 80s, right, in the WWF. I think he went to WCW. WWF had, I think, in the new generation, it was The Rock. So anyway, this is the time when The Rock is coming on the scene. He's the new big guy for the WWF. And Hulk, the WCW gets bought out and Hulk's coming back. So they decide, well, we've got to make Hulk a heel at this point. So because, he's got The Rock and all his new stable. Well, when they put this first match on and Rock and the Hulk stepped to the stage, right? Like the controllers, right? The cabal, McMahon, right? The writers of the script, they thought that they wrote it that The Rock was going to pretty much beat up on the Hulk and, of course, win the match. When Hulk stepped into the auditorium, the crowd reaction was such that both The Rock and Hulk have talked about it after the fact, that they were caught by surprise. They didn't predict how much support the Hulk was going to get as a heel. And so they were talking about how they looked at each other and looked at the crowd and realized in that moment, unspoken between the two wrestlers, but they knew, okay, I need to make you look good. So The Rock still wins the match like as well, but just to display how the show that we're shown, just like your video was talking about, James, the tiny dancer and all that, but this whole thing we're talking about how the show adapts to the appetite of the audience in real time. And so even if the space pope or the cabal wants to control things, they know they're not. They're just trying to tap into, which I'm just repeating what you've been saying. They're just trying to tap into what you want. And the more you empower them saying they're doing it, they love that. But they understand on that level what's really going on, I think.
You know, if you think about yourself as a child, not just you, Brad, I mean all of us, you know, if you really think about that, and I would encourage you guys to do what I've been doing lately, which is noticing when people use the word childish as an insult. I think this is a healthy exercise right now, just to notice it. I'm not saying you got to like die on that hill, but I've really been tapping into this because ultimately that gullibility is what we want. Ultimately, the flavor that we're going for, we deserve. We deserve stories that make us feel like we're a kid again, that make us feel like we're alive and that we're fully engaged. We deserve that. I don't think that we know that yet. I think if anything, that's what's slowing us down the most, and we feel that we don't deserve it. We have to pretend that we're fooled. It's like if someone catches you dancing, you have to be able to give them an excuse that you thought that this forged piece of paper was actually an order by some prison planet controller forcing you to dance. And that if you could come up with that, you'd have a really good life, or someone's forcing you to have that. And Kathy O'Brien told a story where she was brought into a room with 40, 50 people, and they placed her on stage, and they took off her clothes and did things to her. And that all these were the most powerful men in the world. That's what she said. And she changed that story a little bit. Sometimes there were Clintons involved, sometimes there weren't. It's okay to, it's really difficult to know this about yourself, but it's okay to want that appetite. You have to disassociate from the furniture. This is what I meant before. You have to disassociate from that. This is going to sound creepy as fuck, but I think this really is at the heart of pedophilia and why the very people in the truth movement are so infatuated with that one specific thing. It's because there's a love for being a child. And this love for being a child is being held by a controller. And that controller is elite and all powerful and has more money and pulls all the strings. And this is why you can't play. So we need a controller to stop us from playing. We need a controller to prevent us from embarrassing ourselves and running out on the playground again. And not only not caring about what other people think, not even being aware that other people are thinking. This is a skill that drowned you as a child, your awareness of things. So it makes sense that we would develop a fetish where we want that childhood back. And we want to believe something that is absolutely not true. We deserve that. And I think deep down, the only way you're going to convince a truther around this is by that, is we're going to keep your appetite. You're just not going to get it this way. No one's doing that. Everyone's saying you should be ashamed because you believed in this, or you should be ashamed because you don't believe in this. And ultimately, you really just need to look at yourself as someone at a buffet, a child at a buffet there's a yogurt machine, and you've never seen this. There's all these sprinkles, holy fuck. And it's just a different way of understanding. And looking at yourself through that innocence gives you the ability to be gullible, which gives you the ability to understand that you're fantasizing. And this is what I want. This is what I want everyone to do. There's a video that I was going to play today, but I ran out of time, and I'm sorry I was running late today. But the video is, I think, very fitting because I don't think you guys realize that this is actually what imagination gives us. I'm gonna show you this. It's only like a few a few seconds. Share. This is what separates us from beasts is our ability to lie to ourselves. This is a fucking rhino. And this dude is telling you, I want you to lie to yourself and I want you just to not move. And it's the only way you'll live is if you lie to yourself. Stand still. Oh, God.
Hey, 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 hey.
Like that only, I swear you only can do that because you have a frontal lobe that's able to create a fantasy, and the fantasy is it's going to be okay. Guys, I have a bear that walks 3 stories up and crawls on my deck, and he could take me. He could take me. And honestly, all it takes is a noise. All it takes is that. If I just do that, the bear's just like, oh, holy fuck, oh my God. And he just stumbles and he runs and all this shit's falling over and all this stuff. And he's stumbling his way down. I feel sorry for him. I like want to set up a safety net because and so now when he's on the porch, I just like let him out. I caught him licking his nuts the other day. I was like, I don't want to bug him. He's having a good time. But it's
James, you are a bully.
yeah, exactly. The only thing that separates him from me is that he doesn't have the ability to say, it's okay. Oh, don't, it's okay. And I think ultimately this is where we're at. We're at that stage where we're not understanding what a muscle this is to lie, what a muscle it is to believe. And I get so much shit for telling everyone that, hey, man, all you're doing is believing. People are like, how dare you say that? James, I know stuff. Nobody gonna tell me nothing. I don't got to believe the language works. And I'm like, yeah, but you really do. Because if you want to communicate to me, you have to believe that the way to fucking do that is to say like a sentence and put like a word here and a word, like you have to fucking believe that that's how it works. And we keep missing this vital piece. To me, it's everything. And it transforms everything because no one gets to be right anymore, which means there's no more top dog. There's no more victory. All that disappears. We just turn into this symbiotic chemistry again. And that it's a long way off. I don't see it happening in my lifetime, but that's why it's better just to enjoy what we have. There's probably a reason for all this. It's probably really necessary. And so I want to judge my beliefs more on how ashamed I am to have them and how weak I feel when others are in the room invading them. This should be everything to all of us. It should all be personalized in that way. That's all I got.
I think that when you take your interests and put your belief in it, your creativity, like, when I think about, you could say I'm being gullible, like when I have an interest that nobody else has, and I'm not embarrassed about it, like I one time wanted to find out the perfect number of windings for a 50s Gibson P90 pickup. People are like, all right, like that's not anything any luthier is going to do. And then years later, I remember some guy saying, he's the guy who knew exactly what the perfect windings for a 50s. They were complimenting me about it as if that was my special thing, that I was so gullible to spend my time on those types of things or have the opinions that I had, so it's not, you're right, it's not a matter of right or wrong, because just like you say about the Kathy O'Brien, it's like, I don't know if it's right or wrong. That's not how I judged it. I just went down a trail and I smelled dead meat. And I just went, well, there's that dead meat down there. I just recognize that smell. And, how are you going to tell somebody to smell something? It's like, I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in.
Hey, thanks, Pi. I wanted to comment a little bit on Brad's wrestling analogy. I was very called very innocent or naive. Like I still am that. I think I could be I was really glad a cult didn't get me, because I would have been in there, like, ooh, But at the same time, when in the like mid 70s, my girlfriend's father watched the wrestling on the television, and he really thought it was real. And I could not believe that he would think that that was real. Now, how could you be gullible and like be this believer, have a pathological boyfriend that told you lies that you believed, and know that the wrestling wasn't real? I'm like, so it's kind of an interesting way to how the brain works in this childlike wonder and then imagination and all the things that, but then it's kind of like, wow, that's kind of interesting when you think, well, they're changing the script. How did that person that was in his, he was in his 60s watching that stuff, thinking that that was a real competition. So, yeah, I found that interesting.
That's what's interesting to me that opened my mind to it, I guess, a little bit, was just in the fact that I used to be in that mindset that it was absolutely scripted. And it was just interesting to say that even though there may be some like general idea, that it absolutely is reacting though to us, which means it's in some ways it is semi-real. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? As in it's playing to what the audience wants. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I really found that was an interesting twist that you got to see. Hey, Annie, you're up.
Oh, you woke me up. No, I'm just kidding. I was what you guys were just talking about. It's hard for me to keep on track with what I was going to talk about, because then everybody talks about something else and I latch onto that. But in the late 70s, I was in a role. I could have sworn I talked about this before, but I'm just going to talk about it again. I had a boyfriend who took me to a roller derby with the Thunderbirds. Was it the roller chicks? Or maybe it wasn't shit. I forget now. It was so long ago. Anyway, the Thunderbirds and, the T-Birds and the roller derby. And they actually filmed the middle and the end before the start of the match. In other words, they already knew who was going to win. It was all staged, completely. And it was shocking to me. And I was very gullible. I didn't know, I kind of had an idea. It was very theatrical, of course, that's what makes it so fun. It's just the theater of it. But to the point where it's that scripted, I don't know, maybe that was just that one time, or maybe I misunderstood what they were doing. Maybe they had more than one and they could choose or something. I don't know. But it seemed like everything was already done and before it started. And what a weird segue, because there's this image every time talking about the Pope and the reptilian Pope. And I had this image, I don't know, maybe it was a hallucination, like maybe in the late 80s, early 90s, of he either had like an ice skating guy with a top hat or a Pope on a railroad track gliding along, just no actual steps, but just like this moving. I guess it could be the Pope mobile too, but just this whole thing. And then it was echoed in the I Pet Goat 2 or whatever it is, where Jesus is in the boat gliding down the river, and just this whole thing about being holy and on water and gliding, and you're not actually walking, you just, it's like a hovercraft or something, and you just have this technology of you don't need to bother moving your leg. You're just floating along like in your dreams when I don't know if you do, but I do that all the time. It's like, yeah, just flying around. Like you could have your feet first and like floating, or with your feet behind you and just, your head in front, just gliding along and like it's normal. And then you land on your feet, bang, and just boing, really bouncy dreams where everything gets really bouncy and suddenly you're able to bounce and fly up, and nobody else, sometimes other people, but usually you're the only one, and you're just like, hey, check this out, and just but that whole thing of being on a pedestal, and the pedestal and the pit thing, where you don't want to put, as soon as you put somebody on a pedestal and you're following in a group and you're in the group and you're part of the group, and then you start going to meetups and it's just, where is the, I don't know, how many groups can you be interwoven into, and without feeling like there's like so much tension or weirdness between all these different groups, and like infighting and weird things going on in the background. And but how does that relate to the Pope? I don't know, the reptilian, just the floating along in the hovercraft of the Pope. I don't know. I don't know where to take it from there.
Oh, good one, Annie. I have a friend, I told you about her being a ventriloquist wife who made the outfits, the faces and all that for the ventriloquist, where they got invited on American's Got Talent or one of those shows. And they already knew that they had picked him to win. So he had to sign the contract, and they had to go through, like she said, "You're not signing any contract till I read it." And it was like he was already a successful ventriloquist, so it's like it wasn't like he needed to buy the fame. But and so they did not sign the contract. And so they had all of these things. They had already picked him to win, and they had to green screen him out of the thing. That they have ways of doing it. So it was like the funniest thing. They already knew who was going to win before they even started the thing. Um, so it's like proof when somebody else tells you that story, and it's like interesting that, it was the ventriloquist. So, anywho, and the space pope thing, I've been kind of thinking about that, with that background, with the alien background when the pope goes to speak for big audiences, and there's this like looks like a giant reptilian thing with all of the scales and the eyes and stuff. And then it's like, it's getting really close where, people will give their power to that alien pope idea. And it's just like, oh, I think that all of our problems are going to be solved by the alien space pope technology. It's like the ultimate religion. So I loved your video, James. It was really, really awesome. Really, really awesome. So let's see. We have Deb up next.
Hey guys. So I'm glad that you were talking about conspiracies, because I have something that I've never told anybody. My brother-in-law probably started Pizzagate. He literally lives in Kentucky. He's a redneck. He puts out Russian disinformation. He's the one that started the Hillary email crap. He got somebody killed. Oh my God. I found an article about him in a political magazine that somebody had found out his name, and they had everything right in this article. Oh my God, you don't even know. So if you want a conspiracy, believe something like Air America or the octopus murders. I mean, those are actual conspiracies, but don't believe Russian disinformation, okay? All the Pizzagate and all of the QAnon and like, oh my God, you guys, if you only knew, it's my brother-in-law. Anyway, all right, I'm done ranting.
Thanks, Deb. Hey, True, you're up.
Okay. When James was talking about the childlike wonder, the guy that really started these seminars, I mean, he started back in the 60s with guys like Zig Ziglar and Werner Erhard. And it was originally a network marketing program, to help people, why are you sabotaging yourself? But he took it in a different direction, and it was not really a cult. It was like they would pick these exercises from the best of the best and see how they would work, and they'd throw away the stuff that didn't work. But he had this thing about, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Maitreya, that whole thing with Benjamin Creme and the Theosophists. He really, he was up there talking one day, and there's been a lot of stuff come out about the conspiracy with the Theosophists and the one world religion and Krishnamurti and all this stuff. This was back in like 1995, and he's standing there. I could just tell he really believed this. I was reading his energy field, and it was like his little kid came out saying, I want to share this with you. It was a vision of world peace, it was just so pure. And I'll never forget that. That's what made me come to mind. But the other one was Nasara. I got really caught up in Nasara, really, and I don't even want to go into it. But yeah, it really took me down it derailed my whole fucking train. And that's where I got really, I mean, I made some really bad decisions. I don't need to go into it, but it can work. It can, the gullibility, like James has been saying, it can cut both ways. I felt it release my inner child, and I've also felt it, send me into a ditch. So that's all I got.
I wish people could just feel like when they're gullible that they just read a really kick-ass science fiction book, and not feel so bad about it. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel about it. It's like I don't feel bad about it. I listened to Como Rusan and the Space Galactic Federation things at one time and was dilated by it. I'm not embarrassed by that.
Believe because I wanted to believe.
I mean, I noticed a foundation of my thing is just because I noticed so many ridiculous things that dilated me. I had to like see a big pattern before I figured anything out. People have their own ways, but anyway,
I take full responsibility for everything. I don't blame all the propaganda. I mean, I believe because I wanted to believe. That's the bottom line.
But when you get to the bottom of those philosophies, you find that the root of it is comparative philosophy. It's like all those guys are doing are comparing two things, and you make your way by seeing these two things, and then you can make your way and you can figure out other things. But that's, at the root of it, it's a type of I don't even know the words, reductionist or, whatever words you use, but, you're comparing two things and you're able to compare two things. Do we have to go further than that? I don't know. I have some strong feelings about it because it's so contentious. I don't like that's the biggest problem I ever had was getting caught in this thing about then you're trying to prove it's right or wrong. It's like, I can't get in that conversation. I understand. I mean, I don't know if James feels like if I was James, I just can't, I wouldn't be able to explain it. And I'd be stuck in that situation and I wouldn't be able to talk about it. I mean, it's, and then I'd end up just looking stupid or just, oh, you don't really know anything then. Yeah. Because you're refusing to talk about it. It's just really difficult. I don't know.
And you'd find yourself fighting for beliefs that you really can't even prove, but it's too late. You've ran out of calories. I think Pi nailed it with, if you look at it like a sci-fi book, if you look at it like a toy, how much fun was this toy to play with? How believable was this toy? And I want you to look at that, everything. I want you to look at a compass that way. I want you to see geometry as look how fun this is. Look how fun it is to believe that all this hypothetica is real.
There are so many wonders in the world, right? There really are. I think spiritual people have to be gullible.
Yes.
And then you are, skeptical of something harmful, but you have to be gullible to even buy into the idea.
Yeah, there's no other way for your mind to render something on your holodeck for you to even come up with a trajectory of where you want to go next, is you're going to have all this belief, speculation, gambling. We've already looked at how the body uses gambling all the time. So your neural agency is throwing up, here are the top 12 gambles that we think are going to be the menu that's going to keep you engaged and alive in the world. That's literally what has to happen. So the mind has to be given something palatable. Doesn't have to be given something true. It has to be given something palatable. So if you've fallen down a hole and you're in a cave and you can't see something, suddenly the smell, the moisture of the air becomes the loudest signal in the room. And all the latency in there gives you the ability to imaginate between. The latency is just the fuzzy nature of input. That if you didn't have fuzzy nature, you would lose the most critical skill of gullibility. You would lose that skill in clarity. In order to show you the reptilian, for me to produce the reptilian space boat video, I wanted to look like a reptilian space pope, but I don't want to do all the makeup. So I put a bathrobe over my head and I crouched down and I set the lighting and I turned my face and I wrote a bunch of prompts that say, this is the evil cabal ruler, blah, 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 blah. And as I'm watching it render me, which is freaking me out, because I'm like, you're evil as fuck. And I'm just like, yeah, why can't you just be a character, James? Why do you have to be the guy who's good or right or correct or honorable? Shut the fuck up, man. Be the fool, be the buffoon, be the evil master. Be all why won't you be those characters, James? No one is waking up because you're over here going, look how proper I am, look how right I am, look how accurate I am, look how compassionate I am, look how emotional I am, look how creative I am. See, that's convenient because all those are traits that make you look great. Why are you fucking building your entire church and all these? Why can't you sit down and be the evil fucking emperor for once? Why can't you just insert yourself into that role? And it's because I'm weak. It's because I cannot placate or imaginate or gullibilate myself into that role. And I could give you reasons. It's because when I grew up, I could give you so many fucking reasons of why I grew up and I was like, I cannot play the evil guy anymore. It's not going to fucking happen. So I'm going to make sure that I'm never the evil guy. And that's a motivation. That's a good fucking job. But it's removing my ability to be a cleric. It's removing my ability to become a changeling in the world, to be a Heyoka, man. Be a fucking Heyoka. Show some balls and be a Heyoka. Dress like a Harlequin in public and really just play that, because ultimately I'm not dealing with people that are functioning on a critical abstract level like I thought I was. Turns out that was fucking gullibility. that was me being gullible. So why not lean into this fantasy the way everyone else is, but just come out where at least I played with the toys I wanted to play with. At least I did that, right? Because we're not here yet. We this is not where everyone is ready to be at. We need group permission. Can we play Luciferian pedophile now? Yeah, but Kathy gets to be the victim. It's okay. Okay, let's do that. Because it's closer, I guess, sorta, to me just wanting to be seen. Because I was sexually assaulted by a system that treated me like a procedure. It's called kinder care. And like all these kids went there, but all these really wasn't a prison planet, because my mom wasn't like forced at gunpoint to like bring her kid here. That was My mom literally walked into a place she'd never been to in her life. It was just like, what's this? Oh, it's where all these people drop off their kids. Oh, okay. What is that on the wall? Oh, you got ducks on the wall. Hey, works for me. This is life. I don't get to say I was treated unfairly. I wasn't treated unfairly. I was placed in a pool of belief with a bunch of other people that are trying to believe, but everyone's insisting no one's believing. And no one's imaginating because you can't imaginate. No one's allowed to imaginate anymore. You have to imagine that no one is allowed to imaginate. So fucked up we are. So I think that this is done. I think that the Corona, Building 7, Kathy O'Brien, all that stuff has done more for my compassion than anything else, because I've been able to really, really look at the people in the foxhole with me and just compassionate them. Just really, really, really understand how all this works with no judgment. It's why I keep finding myself siding with the Luciferian Freemasons. It's embarrassing, I know. Forgive me. But I just constantly find myself, oh, fuck, what's wrong, James? I'm in the Luciferian tent again. I got to get out of here and get back into the foxhole and start fucking complaining again. Because ultimately, it's how well are you playing? David Lee Roth said, I'm going to play the lead singer of Van Halen. And they already fucking had a Van Halen lead singer. They already had one. And he played it harder, didn't he? He had better imagination. And Sammy Hagar fucking hates him for that. He hates him to this day for that. Son of a fucking bitch. Doesn't know shit about Van Halen. It's like, no, because he played it harder than you did. He believed in it harder than you did. And that's how threatening and deadly the world is. It's that deadly that your dreams will be squashed by someone who just believes harder than you do. This is Playground 101, you know? You remember this. It's happened when you were in fourth grade. Or you're like, no one wants to play Indians. They want to play fucking cops and robbers. This is bullshit, man.
The worst one was they want to play teacher, and there was always the one that had to be the teacher. And I was like tired of being the student.
You
I
didn't like
wanted,
being bossed around?
it wasn't like that, but they were the bossy ones for sure.
Yeah.
The ones that wanted to be the teacher were always the bossy ones. They always wanted to play mommy too, like mean mommy, you know. I wanted to kind of bring up insurance, and I was thinking about, this truth movement kind of being what you think is insurance. So, you go down to Jacera and Jacera, you can see that you thought this insurance was going to be what your insurance was, your, I don't know, whatever you feel needs to be protected, you have insurance on. So I just remember like thinking, that's just this program of, you know, insurance on top of the insurance on top of the insurance. I live in a state where it's really a lot of uh billboards for the attorneys for, the you don't, you want to win the lottery, and so you kind of scam things. So car wrecks, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like an interesting thing to not go down that level of like gullibility of fear on the fear on the fear to get your insurances so that you can never feel like you can, what? I don't know, take a risk, do something that doesn't have insurance on it. So I'm like looking at that. And I was listening to this person's story about they were at this light, a person hit them, and then they fled the scene. So they find the car down like a few blocks away, abandoned, and then they find the person and they said, well, somebody was in my car, and it was like that, it wasn't me. And so the insurance company were, they're looking at this and they said, well, it's not our responsibility. The person was not competent, the person who wasn't in the car. So it wasn't even like you could get that person, whoever stole the car, wasn't the insurance company responsible? So it's like all these, what's responsible? What is this land of no responsibility? And I'm like, so it's kind of an interesting thing with what your insurance is and how you live your life with like I live in a old house, and it was abandoned for 10 years before I redid it. It's got all wood cypress walls. Did a great job on it. Didn't have any insurance, but it still stood through hurricanes, through everything else. So then you get the house, and then you're like, oh, I need to have all of this insurance so that I can't afford to live in the house. So it's kind of interesting how we're in this kind of setup to stay in that land of not make believe, whatever this real thing is. Insurance feels real.
And it does play on our gullibility too, doesn't it? I have a couple family members that have worked in insurance, and like this, not that this is news or anything, but the entire game, or what their entire unspoken job is to not pay out, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's how they make money. So they're selling you the idea of you're covered, but their whole agenda is not to cover you. And it's like, and we kind of understand that on a logical level, and yet, like you say, the mass gullibility, like what? It's not like you or I can do anything outside of that, even though seeing it like that, though, right?
Well, there is one sovereign take on this that's going to put chills in you. The people that bought insurance didn't buy insurance so their property would be reimbursed. They bought insurance so they could relax,
Yeah.
which means they got what they wanted. They got what they wanted. Insurance.
What's funny is they relax in the moment, and then when something happens and
exactly.
they need what gave them that relax.
Yeah. So the sovereign take is that the insurance buyer isn't aware of why they bought insurance. They're not aware of what they actually paid for. They think that they paid for, hey man, you told me if I gave you $1 every month for a year that you would replace my $16 trillion home. And now you're not doing it. Like, even if you do the math, like if you look at life insurance math, it's like if you're 60, like I remember when I was a kid watching Ed McMahon or Dick Van whatever, Dick Clark or something going, yeah, if you're over 65, give Colonial Penn $9 a month and we'll pay out 100,000. And even as a little kid, I'm just like, how does this fucking math work? Like, how does this fucking math work? And no one was there to tell me is they don't pay out. No one, I honestly thought these guys have got some kind of magic shit going on where they can turn a $9.99 payment a month with no medical exam into $300,000 payout. Like, how do you even live that long to? You don't. People aren't buying insurance for the payout. They're buying insurance for the idea that we have insurance.
Yeah, I like that idea, James, that it's like a parasympathetic buy-in to then if you alchemate it, can you have a parasympathetic experience without it? That's what I alchemated. Because
Yes.
I alchemated that, and then I was my second cousin. I don't know if you know, an actuary is a math genius that goes into insurance stuff, so they can figure out the math on how it makes sense for you to pay your premiums, and they don't go under. So it's a master in math magic. So it's extremely interesting that numbers became money.
Yep.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, I rail against it a little bit, in the societies like, race like veal, over application of like the safety idea. But then when I go back in history, I see that insurance is really just hired guns. Like, if you were a pioneer in 1888, you're not going to make it across the plains unless you hire some guns or have people that know the way, know how to deal with Indians and bandits and things like that. And they're going to tell you what to do. They're going to say, leave that oxen and all that heavy shit because we've got rivers to cross. That's like your contract. And so insurance is really nothing more than hired guns. It's the modern version because it's too cumbersome. We don't hire guns anymore to protect our house because we're not on the prairie. There's different ways that we do it. And so if I can do without, and I think it's stupid, I try to do without, like health insurance or things like that. But then, like, with my house and a lawsuit, I was able to use it like a hired gun and not even spend a single dollar and take down a experienced lawsuit millionaire that's like in the National Register of examples for tedious lawsuits. Took them down without spending a dime. So, I feel like I had a hired gun there. So it's worth trying to understand the ridiculousness and just try to pick the best hired guns you can, like you would, because you want to survive your trip or whatever,
Hey, thanks, Pi. I really, I don't really think there's a right answer. I think it's like an alchemizing of experience. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, on this, and I agree, there is no right answer. There's also two sides to work this, to tack on this. I'm learning the second side, which is that maybe I can be someone that has insurance as long as I realize that I'm getting the product the day I sign up for insurance and that product has already been spent. And I would say the same thing with taxes. That paying your taxes should never be looked at as, oh, I'm going to get these back, or these are going to be spent fairly, or this is going to be free of fraud. Look, like, stop. You're adorable, but stop. That's not why you're paying taxes. You're paying taxes because it puts you in a parasympathetic state. You get to feel like you have a little bit of a bubble of protection and that you're worth it. See, you're worth, insurance is worth it, even though the product doesn't pay. So ultimately, you should have the cheapest insurance policy. Ultimately, you guys should have a sign in your yard that says brings home security. That ultimately, that's the magic that you want. It's false, but it works, don't you? See what I mean? This is, in my mind, this is the way to play in this world and pay taxes and get insurance, because you have this approach to it. The expectations already earned, because the moment you signed up, you're like, wow, I feel great. The agent's like, what? It's like, I feel so insured. And they're like, are you okay? It's like, no, I feel insured. Fuck, I'm insured. Fuck. Are you insured? I'm insured. And that you're really enjoying this, and that's the entire product. So case closed. Like, that's it. You just spent your wares. I hope you enjoyed your stay, that kind of thing. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, James. I'm just doing a little time check. We have about 25 minutes. We have plenty of time, but there's if somebody that hasn't spoken up and would like to speak up or put your camera on, plenty of time here. So go ahead. There's a little reaction button on the bottom. You can just raise your hand. And we have Trevor up. Go ahead, Trevor.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, I know my camera's off. I might turn it on in a minute. But yeah, I was just thinking about the insurance and the gullibility thing. I think, like James is saying, the product is the feeling good. And that's probably ties in us being gullible. And then we kind of learn that it's just kind of a money suck, like you can get health insurance through an employer and pay like $150 a week. Then you still got anything you go and do, it's still gonna be, I mean, even just to get like them tell you have a flu so you can get antibiotics, it's like $150 with insurance. Plus you pay, you know what I mean? And then you pay 5 grand, 5 to 7 grand the whole year just in your paycheck deductible. But I mean, you start off and you think it's good, just like people that think, oh, 401k is gonna save me. Like, nah, man. Like, what you say you're gonna wait till you're 65 so you can spend, what's at that time gonna be worth nothing. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there. I think that's kind of like that falls into that. Just yeah, and then just being gullible. I think everyone's kind of probably a little too hard on themselves. I mean, I used to watch Alex Jones. I'm not ashamed of that. Like, it was a moment in my life that I thought that was a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you just go through levels, and I think it's just like learning process. Like when you're a kid, when you learn to ride a bike, it's just you're gonna go through the process of falling into a lot of traps, like whatever it is, theories, this and that, X, Y, and Z. And I don't know, I think you just learn from it and just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I just want to say, I think especially about Alex Jones is perfect. I think you guys should look for this more. Olivia Newton-John was one for me as a kid where I really liked her when I was a little kid. Didn't have any idea of what was cool or not. And then you start to wander around and people are like dissing her all the time. And then you're like, should I let this go? Should I let this go? And I have to believe that we are magic, man, and fucking Xanadu. And to me, these are the battles that we lose ourselves, that we have to come back and bring that last hero home. You need to go reclaim that. So to me, that watching these things happen now is the perfect opportunity, which is why I'm going to tee all this up to say this. The person who loses, Trevor, is the one who's watching Alex Jones and can't enjoy it. That's the loser.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what
And
I
then
mean?
part of
Ultimately, that's it. Because if you can
Mhm.
do that, you are the master of your universe. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, just one more thing, and I don't want to be long. I'll just let other people talk. Just another thing I was thinking of while you guys were talking is like, well, I always kind of think of this too, is like I love conspiracy theories, and I've gone down every rabbit hole. Like you guys, I'm sure you guys know more because you guys are very knowledgeable with like everything you've gone into and stuff. I know that, but I think I've kind of looked at everything because it's just interesting to me, like legitimately. And I think some are like some you couldn't convince me that aren't true, and it doesn't matter. Like I'll tell people like I respect like family members and people I know that I have a lot of respect for, or vice versa. And I'll tell them, hey, I think the Earth's flat, but it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not gonna try and convince you. I don't want to argue about it. It doesn't matter. Even if I'm wrong, and I tell them I could be wrong, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But that's pretty much all I'll leave you with. My old lady's calling. I'll get back to you guys.
Well, let
Thanks,
me echo
Trevor.
what you're saying, Trevor,
All
and just
right, see you guys. Thanks.
Thanks.
wait,
I
wait,
would
what was I
even-
gonna say? Go ahead, Jay.
No, you go ahead, Del. Brad. I didn't do that to be funny, seriously.
That's all right. I was just going to back on what Trevor was saying about the fact that I do think it's huge for us, kind of take it easy on ourselves and not get so hard on ourselves for being gullible and things like that. For believing what we want to believe in and let ourselves.
Yeah. I would encourage people to hopefully you're not flat earth, because then I can encourage you to try and hold that belief. Like just try it, and you'll find like it's really interesting exercise. And do this with everything, like whatever it is out there. See if you can hold that belief. Just see if you can do it. I think you'll find that it's very caloric, and that I have a theory. I've said this before. I don't think over half the flat earthers are actually flat earthers. I don't think that they have the muster to even hold that belief. And I say that because I worked every single day to hold that belief. And I literally remember times, guys, I remember stalking myself on this in my journal because I was this into this idea, that I would catch myself not being a flat earther in the morning. That I'd sit down and check in with myself, and I would forget. I would have, and in my mind, I don't think anyone's doing that. I think that they just think I'm a flat earther, and they say that because socially this is what we can say. That socially this is what we do, and that this gullible social nature is exactly why I love us. This is why we're endearing. I don't want to change this. I'm not trying to expose you. I'm trying to pick you up and say, look how cute you are. Look, this is adorable. It's adorable because you're looking at a land of sheep, and you're looking for a crowd of people that represent the opposite of that. And you walk into this cavern called Flat Earth, and there's some really, really groovy people in here. It makes you feel better because people are out there doubting too. And they're doubting so much that there's an archetypal symbol where the actual shape of the fucking earth. These are the paladins. These are the ones that are holding the line in that very pristine place. And half of them aren't doing it. I'm sorry. Half of them aren't really doing it. Half of them are there for social cohesion, and this is good. This is not a flaw. This is how beliefs are. They're excuses for us to come together. They're excuses for us to meet each other and just be dilated by it all. We need a cosmology that has the dilation. I'm the flat earther who says there are dinosaurs. I'm the flat earther who says that, believe it or not, the shape of the world is dependent on the observer. And that you can have a mindset that's so carved that your world is, in fact, shaped like a ball. And that I can wake up every day and you will try and shape my ball every fucking day. And this is what I've learned from it, is that I've noticed the liquid of field effect of everyone around me saying, don't be flat earther, man. You need schizophrenia if you're going to pull this off. I ultimately think that's what I would need to do. If I was going to really be that, I would need schizophrenia to do it. Bob Nodell used to be in Glowbusters. He's dead now. Really had a lot of respect for him. Never had respect for him because he was a flat earther. I don't think he was. I think he was just a zetetic. He was just fucking curious. And he liked to test everything he could. And the people around him that called themselves flat earthers didn't want to test things. They just wanted a flag. They just wanted a flag to say, we are hunkering down here and we're going to fight tooth or nail to keep this. And you saw that with Mud Flood. You saw that with Mandela effect. You see this with a lot of things. There's too many to name. Every one of them is as valid as any other toy in this box. And a lot of people aren't going to be able to admit their toys because it ruins the fun. It's not going to be able to engage in it. They have to feel it's real. If I would have thought that getting married was just a fucking toy in my wife's mind, I never would have played. I would not have fucking played. I was just way too objective, just way too, this is serious, right? Well, this is spiritually true, right? Right? It's people so I can sympathize what it's like for all these people out here losing their fucking minds right now. And you know what? Jimmy Dore is going to be there for them. There's hermetic steps that are absolutely crucial, valid, important, necessary, and wrong all at the same time. And wrong in the sense of what you believe now. And that you just need to learn how to go to the ball game and say, I'm gonna be a Republican now. And just for 2 hours, just like walk around like a Republican, going, everyone just needs to be more responsible. And people are living off the government teat. And you can have fun with this. Like you get to say teat. You get to blame like half the room for all your problems. You get to have a kind of sway, you know? You get to be like, well, we fucking won. And that is fun as shit. Like this is a way of playing on the ground, you know? You got hats. It's all there. Just like Bernie Sanders. Like that dude was a blast. So fucking fun, you know? So much better than all the others that we see. So Ronald Reagan, believe it or not, he was the Bernie Sanders of his day. That dude was a fucking joy. Some of you may remember. Seriously, he was a joy to watch. He was just like, oh my God, what is this guy? What is he got? Oh my God, he loves jelly beans. Holy fuck, this guy is human. And that's all it took. And you could have looked right then. You could have turned around to me when I was 12 or 9 and said, James, this is how it works. And I would have been like, oh my God, dude, I get it now. Instead, I was like, I'm so confused. Ugh. So we get to turn around to these kids now, right? And go, dude, this is how it works. Like you get to do that. And it's going to mean you can't have any pride in the churches that you thought that you were coming here to die for, right? You really get to look at it as, no, this is a cardboard box. Yeah, we painted it to look like Camelot. It's a refrigerator box. It's fun as fuck, though. It's a lot of fun. This changes everything. You really do become a child again. And I think sounds fucking weird. I know this is going to sound like out of left field, but guys, if you're watching nature, you're seeing the trans movement, you're seeing the political follies, you're seeing Building 7, you're seeing Bluebeam, you're seeing the New World Order, you're seeing COVID. All these are pushing you back into this one central lesson, which is it's not fucking real. It's not real. And those of you who are going to insist it is, you're going to have to dope to be in charge. It's the only way. And this is where we are. It's such a good place to be. It's the only time we've been here, and we'll never be here again. So we should enjoy it, you know, like insurance.
You know, when you go on vacation, and especially for me being from Nebraska, like as much as you like it, you know, you can imagine it'd be nice to live there, but you know, I'm always glad to come back here, and then I have to feel, you know, not exactly guilty, but it's like as if there's something wrong with me. Like, why would I like it here when I've been all, you know, when undeniably all these places around the world have their feelings, and yet I like it here. And so like the flat earther movement is kind of like, you know, I guess if you go on vacation and you decide you want to live there on a flat earth of petrified belief because you like those things they've lined up and the flags they've planted, you know, and that's just not enough for me. It doesn't, and you can't hang out there without them being angry at you if you ever discussed anything, because then you'd be in that right or wrong thing, right? There's no smell here. It's all about right or wrong. So that's just not an environment for me, you know. If that's all there is, there has to be the ability to carve out more. And that's, you know, that's whatever, you know, it's just people, you're just not going to find that very easy. It should be something that's, you know, you're mining for gold and you don't know where it is. So
Counter to group think though, right, Pi? And that's the thing that's is always so interesting about the idea that that these all are all toys. The entire experience is that we thought was so real and so objective that you start to have fun when you start to realize that, okay, even the religion, so like even like the idea of Jesus, right, or Christ or anything like that, it's when you get so the right and wrong of it, right? It's like it's either it's real or it's not, it's right or wrong. And it's like there's no space in there for the individual to play with it in themselves. So I always found it the thing that I always found interesting, no matter what group it was, when I was going to church as a kid, when I got baptized and all that, and you're brought in, you're okay, now you're a Christian. When I was in the truth movement, oh, you agree with this. The thing that got me the most that I always sort of butted up against was all the things I was expected to have had to have absorbed because I'm part of this group now. So I'm now supposed to believe everything this group believes, when even in the front end, when I went in, that's not what was happening for me. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like going into the truth stories and things like that. It's like if it blew my hair back, it's like that's why I was in there. But as soon as it's like, oh, the flat earth community, we think this, it's like that's where it got to be. I was like, I'm not agreeing to everything that comes with this. And so then it becomes hard to maintain labels, to call yourself anything. And
it was always leave your dinosaurs at the door, James, but you can come in. But you can't have dinosaurs in here. We fuck dinosaurs. We don't like dinosaurs. It's like no girls allowed.
It's interesting because I also went flat earth, but I didn't have that experience at all. I had a whole different experience. So the flat earth was like with like discs. So like the earth is a magnetic field. And so where you are on it is where you're seeing it. So the more that you get closer to here, it looks more like this. So a lower world, middle world, upper world. So I never took flat earth as being really flat earth. I took it as metaphysical flat earth. I was like, you can have a round earth and a flat earth. So it's like really taking yourself out of the positive and negative, right and wrong, and going into the center. So when you look at like the Norse mythology, you're like, or even Peruvian mythology, you go into upper world, Upacha, Kaipacha, Hanikpacha, you have all these levels. And then the more you get into the center, the more that it changes where the discs fall and where you are reading on the disc. So I never had that issue. So let's see, we have Deb's hands up. Go ahead, Deb.
So here's my crazy thought. When I was 21, a childhood friend came to my house and very passionately told me about the rapture and begged me to be a Christian. So I had been going to a Methodist church my whole life, so I really had no idea what she was talking about, that I should become a Christian because I'm under the impression that I was already Christian. So I really hated that crap, but it got under my skin, the whole rapture thing. And so every time there's like, I keep thinking, this is so weird that we're so polarized. All the things that are happening are so weird. It's almost like there are two separate realities. Does that mean it's the rapture? Okay. I mean, it's a thought. I do a lot of thought exercise. Anyway.
I think no, go ahead, Brad.
I was just going to say that I would say that absolutely say that two people could experience the exact same thing and experience it very differently.
Yeah.
So they would say that they might even call it different things, but
yeah, I would even, just to kind of add because I was on the same thought, Brad, was if you look at the Uber psychology of everything that has sentience, all the theories that everyone has actually are true. Every single cosmology that everyone has. The world is only 6,000 years old, and it required 200 billion years of evolution. How? This is what I do all the time.
We go around 5 times.
I do this all the time. I take every single theory and I say, how can both these be true? And I'm just throwing this out just so you can just see what I mean. I say, well, that's easy because the first time it took 50 trillion years to develop a sapiens. And then as soon as the sapiens mastered that, they were like, holy fuck, we have to do everything we can not to lose where we are. So then the natural inclination is to develop an ark, is to develop a preservation. So then the preservation ends up being a story that does actually be true too, to where the entire civilization can kick itself off in 6,000 years, but only because it spent 200 million trillion years being so desperately afraid of dying that it would move every single mountain it could to find a way to never ever forget, to never ever lose the seed, the almond seed of it all, right? So both are true. How is it that all these cosmologies are true? And that's why you find me always obsessing about mythology, because I notice that underneath mythology is urge, and underneath urge is truth. all urge is truth. There's not one single urge that is false. It could be attached to a different string that you think means something else, but ultimately the urges are never lying to you, my friends. The urges are the reptilian reflex that's in the moment giving you these things to see into the now that would burn your face off if you tried to look at it directly. So that's all of these things are true. You have 33 vertebrae. You're going to have a lot of complexity in your signal coming in. So that's what it requires, you know, the omniscience, the Osiran consciousness will probably be inside of all of us. And we'll notice in that very final reveal, holy fuck, we're all the same. But until then, each of us have to say, I'm the fucking elbow. I am the elbow of it all, you know, and you have to be the best elbow in the fucking world, because ultimately the person who believes they are the elbow the most, there's the David Lee Roth of Osiris's elbow.
Okay.
Right. So all of us are doing that right now. You're just watching it all come into place. Just like the meiosis, when you're watching the cell, like, why is everything happening and everything's shaking and shuddering and the entire universe is separating and people know I'm going this way, I'm going that way. It's like that. We're just watching that happen. It's really quite beautiful.
Yeah, I have my own thing about dinosaurs too, that I always have to incorporate it because, you know, sure, there's all these theories, but then the sandhills, the ranchers' houses are full of giant bones that look like dinosaur bones. So, you know, not just arrowheads, but all kinds of bones. You know?
One thing in real quick, because it occurred to me a long time ago. Just one question. What if 7 days of creation are days of Brahman? Millions and millions of years. What about the night of Brahman? Millions and millions of years. What's the definition of a day?
I'd say when you get into the metaphysical and things like this, and a lot of that is as soon as you go into the realm of suggesting that it's metaphorical, all that's on the table, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Just wait till it gets metaphysical. Sorry.
Geology is not really as impressive as a field as you might think. Like around here, they still teach at the university that it's a wind-blown alluvial sand dune thing. But then when you come to learn it, you realize that there's, you know, even though it's supposed to be the bottom of an old ocean, it's a peat, it's a stabilized like layer of peat, which there's no bottoms of oceans that have giant layers of peat, like it was a peat bog. So, and every river that supposedly just carves its way, actually, I just know this because when I worked out there for the game and parks, he was in charge of the dams. He shut off the river, and I realized like these rivers are like a rock highway. Like the Loop River is a big brown and tan layer of chert, and it's like a highway, and it follows that highway, and it's always followed that highway. And like the Calamus Reservoir, when they built the dam, they ran into, and they don't even have a cool history. Or it was this beautiful hunting ground in this canyon. You know, they didn't want to take any pictures because it was so cherished. And they ran into the whole bottom of that reservoir is a giant piece of green adventuring. And that's like, you know, that's a special place. But so these are, you know, so the geology isn't even close to being correct. So that doesn't that kind of shouldn't that just free people up to like be more creative in the way, you know? And I do that too. I incorporate flat earth ideas with globe earth, and there's plenty of room there. I haven't run out of that territory yet. I'm still doing.
I claim any idea I want, and I don't feel like I have to. You know what I'm saying? It's, if I want to entertain an idea, I do. Take what I want. Real quick, I just want to.
We have like 1 minute. We have 1 minute, and I want to honor our time. So, and we have Deb's hand up. So I don't know if she's still. Nope, no hand up. Go ahead, Brad. You'll finish it off.
All I was wanting to do is, I know y'all had a dojo I wasn't at the other week where y'all were talking about puppets and stuff like that, and I wanted to introduce my buddy BB.
Wow! Look at him! Look at that!
I didn't know he was going to be me. Well, yeah, you did. You may not have thought so, but you did, right? No, well, I was making a music video for my silly videos, and my kids and I, they were young at the time, watching Jeff Dunham. This inspired this whole thing. And when I started making the puppet and put the mouth together, they were the one that said, "It's you." I said, Okay. And so I leaned into it, but I just thought it was funny.
Oh, what a great way to close. Hey, can you say something again? Because I have the full camera on now. Wait a minute. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. See, he's still mad at me because I cut my hair. Traitor. You know, because I'm not, I can't be a rock star like you. Well, we cannot do it. It takes a special David Lee Roth style character and pizzazz.
I'm so happy. I love you guys.
That's so awesome.